I can see from Jaws, Quint, he says,
Hey, Dad.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
At this time, I'll call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019, at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Caveney?
Here.
Trustee Crowley? Trustee Gillis?
Here.
Trustee Ivan?
here.
Trustee Killily?
Here.
Trustee Kreis?
Here.
Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for our fallen veterans. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any members of any village commissions or committees here tonight? Thank you. Let the record reflect that trustee Sandra Crowley is in attendance. Any members of any local organizations here tonight? Joyce?
Bill Bosking, representing Woodland area.
Diane Banta, National Park Service. All right, before we move on to public comment, we are honored to have Diane Banta here from the National Park Service. Been a great friend to the Village of Midlothian and many of its endeavors, and she is here tonight to present an award from the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. Diane?
Thank you. So my program with the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance, I worked with Karen and Helen and started with the
Rain ready.
Thank you. And I'm still working with them in Robbins, you think I remember. So I worked with Rain Ready and then took on working with them to build the partnership for the Natalie Creek Trail. And our program, Rivers and Trails, offers awards to certain projects. What you need to know when you were talking about organizations, because I retired in December, so this is really late.
You'll never retire.
But I would like to have Karen come join me. And I would like to have Helen come join me. This is an award, an excellence award. Yours actually is a partnership excellence award. I singled these two people out from the work that we've done, not because they're my friends and they're my favorites, but because they work so hard. They bring heart and soul to, well, again, starting with Rain Ready and then to the Natalie Creek Trail. So I can't thank you enough for, they always said, Diane, you rock, you do so much for us. I was like, no, you guys are the ones that are doing all the work. But that's not true, because there's people here that did some of the work. So tonight, I wanted to celebrate everybody. There's you and your dad. There's Carl. That's where I first met you, some of that stuff. Oopsie. Sorry. I'm a mess wherever I go. Trust me. You were even there in the beginning, and then you just got too busy.
We're gonna jump into CalSAG this year?
No jumping in the CalSAG. That's, here, I guess you get all of these. You're just a pretty little flower, aren't you? Thanks. Alan, I know I picked on you too.
Thanks.
You were afraid of you. Here, I might use that for somebody else. We got This really was a team effort, and this was my way to show appreciation. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One of you's getting shorted. It's okay. Thanks. And I chose those flowers because Rain Ready is blue and yellow, so the purple has to pretend it's blue today. But thank you, everybody at Midlothian, for supporting the idea of a trail while you're working with MWRD to stop your flooding. You know, this is just a wonderful opportunity for the community. And the leadership is just all around. The heart is all around. So thank both of you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And as I said, I've said this so many times, it really isn't excellence for me. It's that Natalie Creek Trail, Joe Sperry, you've been at every meeting, Jerry Senior, Thea, Chris Parker. It's
Exactly.
been all of these people, and Diane, without your vision, Molly Ocean from the Center for Neighborhood Technology brought you to Midlothian, and then you started bringing more people.
You have vision. I just had a little bit of energy and wanted people to play well together.
A little bit.
So yes, and I'm sorry about the mess on your floor. There's a lot of flowers on the floor.
We're gonna give you the vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
But again, this is really about all of the volunteers who continue to, every month, come to these meetings and work behind the scenes. So, thank you, Diane, and thank you, volunteers.
Again, thank you, Diane, for everything you've done for the Village of Midlothian, and Karen and Helen, everything you do, continue to do for the Village of Midlothian. It is that time of year again where we have the pleasure of presenting the check from this year's charity golf outing. Before we get to that, I just wanted to thank everyone that did so much and worked so hard to make it another successful event this year. But I'd really like to thank Jack and Jody Hilly here for putting it all together, organizing it, putting up with a lot of stuff to pull it all off and make it a successful event once again this year. So tonight we have Bill Busking from St. Christopher's Church, and we have Carrie Zofeld from St. Stephen's Church here to accept the check. This is a wonderful, wonderful organization. Wonderful charity. It's been around for decades. It's helped so many people, so many families, and yeah, I'll just get on to it. I'll just check.
In all honesty, the person who's most important in this whole scheme and who holds everything together is my wife, Jane. She won't take the credit, but it's the truth. Side note, August 10th, 2020. Next year.
He's got the real check.
I don't think they're going to let you cash it.
Thank you.
All right. So, looking for a good year next year too. So, thank you for everything that everyone does. All right, we will move on to public comment. If you would like to be made a matter of public record, please stand, state your name, and please use an address, and please use the microphone so that helmet up there can hear you. What? Okay. As Trustee Kavanaugh always says, you reserve the right to speak later.
Exactly.
All right, then we'll move on. I'll close the floor to public comment, move on to tonight's consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda. Number 1, approval of resolution 19-1023A, adoption of the update of the Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Number 2, approval of the job description for the part-time building department file clerk. Number 3, approval of the October 2nd, 2019 committee meeting minutes. Number 4, approval of the October 9th, 2019 board meeting minutes. Number 5, approval of the August 7th, 2019 closed session minutes. Number 6, approval of the August 21st, 2019 closed session minutes. Number 7, approval of the August 28th, 2019 closed session minutes. Number 8, approval of the September 4th, 2019 closed session minutes. Number 9, approval of the September 25th, 2019 closed session minutes. Number 10, approval of the October 2nd, 2019 closed session minutes. Number 11, approval of the September 2019 Treasurer's Monthly Report. Number 12, approval of the September 2019 Building Department Report. Number 13, approval of the September 2019 Fire Department Monthly Report. Number 14, approval of the September 2019 Health Department Monthly Report. Number 15, approval of the September 2019 Police Department Monthly Report. And number 16, approval of the September 2019 Public Works Department Monthly Report. And number 17, approval of the list of bills. Is there any item any trustee would like off of tonight's consent agenda?
Number 17, sir.
Number 17. Anything else? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda with all the items except number 17, which is approval of the list of bills.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just like, and I just discovered this, because I was still reviewing minutes and sending corrections this afternoon. I believe the September 25th regular board meeting minutes were supposed to be on tonight's agenda.
Which date?
September 25th. I don't think those were approved.
You're correct, we just have the closed session minutes.
So if we could just add those on to the
We'll add
next
those to
consent
next. Yep,
agenda.
Correct.
Anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kami?
Aye.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Gillis?
Aye.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Killily?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, at this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the list of bills.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have one thing on
Okay.
it. I just would like to hold off on paying the proven bill that's on there. I asked for a clarification of proven for some of the charges that we have with regards to the installation, and that I just wasn't clear on a couple things, so if we could remove that until the next time.
Okay.
So do you want us to remove it and approve it later, or do you want us to print the check and hold it until you get clarification?
Whatever's appropriate, I don't know what's
Just
appropriate.
hold the check until we can.
Oh, that's,
Okay, so then I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's list of bills minus the bill from proven IT.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Gillis?
Aye.
Trustee Kami?
Aye.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Killily?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Moving on to trustee business, trustee Kreis.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to remind everyone that on Sunday, as part of the Fall Festival, the Keep Midlothian Beautiful Committee is hosting a clothing, textile, shoe drive over at the Rain Ready Community Garden. We are collecting shoes, boots, clothing, hats, gloves, linens, blankets, towels. Items can be stained. It can be one sock, one glove. All of these items will either be resold or recycled, and they will not go into the landfill, right, Rita? And this is through the efforts of our fabulous volunteer, Rita Zarni, Recycle Rita, who has organized and orchestrated this entire program. So we're off to a good start. So if you have any items, please get them over to the rain garden. There is a box in the foyer that they can be dropped off in, or if you need a special pickup, let us know. So Helen will make pickups, right? Back of my car is loaded. And that is all I have this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Rita, got the email from you about the Lions Club box? You want to put, that's the eyeglass?
Right.
Okay. Go for it. Trustee Kreis, I was copied on an email today, or forwarded an email today about Commissioner Shore came to town on Friday for a meeting with you and Helen about signage. Is that what?
Well, actually, she called Helen, I got a phone call and Helen did, and she wanted to go on a tour of Natalie Creek, so we took her on a tour.
Nice.
Yeah, and so, it was her recommendation, and Chris Parker joined us, that, they want to do some signage because it's not very clear what the project is all about. So we gave her some ideas, and the district is going to provide signage.
Okay. And Superintendent Sparrow will be included on,
Well, I am review, but I think that Commissioner Shore is going to put together the draft. The district will pay for the signs.
I would like to also take a look at that draft, please.
Okay?
I sent an email to Alfred from Commissioner Shore's office to ask him to include me on any correspondence between her office and the village president's office, so hopefully that will happen. He just responded, he said he will do so, so that's good news. Okay, Trustee Ivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a couple of exciting finance updates to quickly tell you about. The annual comptroller's report will be filed tomorrow based on the final audit. Our bond guy was appraised that the audit will be available for him tomorrow. And the next steps in the bond issues are as follows. The rating agency book that basically sells Midlothian is going to be finalized. The rating agency is contacted to set up a meeting to discuss the village. And then the first issuance of bonds should be within 30 days after that.
I thought we already did the book.
It's going to be finalized. So we did the book, but we need to finalize it. You know,
Can I see a copy of it too, please?
you want a copy of it?
I just want, just
Okay.
electronic, I want to see it.
Not a problem. A TIF primer class will be held on November 13th, which is a regular board meeting, from 5:45 to 6:45. Mary Thompson and Kay McKenna will provide a PowerPoint presentation on TIFs and answer any questions that the board may have.
And what day was that, Carl?
November 13th from 5:45 to 6:45. I know everybody's excited to attend that one. Number 3 here, health insurance information has been disseminated to department heads so that they can provide it to their union members. And it was also requested that they provide feedback by November 1st. So with that, I would like to turn over the rest of my time over to Sandy Crowley to talk about health insurance.
I just had a few questions. I had turned over the health insurance stuff last week to Chief Delaney and asked him to look at it for the police department, for the unions. I know that, after we kind of went over it, I think all of us, we had a lot of questions after we talked about it last week. I want to say that it seems that United Healthcare does offer a substantial savings to the village. And I think we all need to look at it seriously if it's comparable to the Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So that was going to be what I would ask of all the department heads and the trustees, to make sure you talk to your departments, get their input, because I think if everybody, if it's a huge savings to the village, it's also a huge savings to the employees. And if we can get them that same coverage and the same, keeping their doctors and all of that, and have a huge savings, I think that's really important. So that was one of the things I was gonna say, is if all the department heads could talk to their staff, get their input, see if they see any problems with it, because clearly we're at a crunch for time. We're supposed to be opening up for new benefits December 1st, which only leaves us a certain amount of time. And it's, we're gonna have to figure out what we do if we are gonna switch. And the second part of that was, I know Maggie had sent an email that she set up a representative for November 6th. I will not be at the November 6th meeting, so I do have some additional questions that I will be sending to Maggie to get clarification on for that before the November 6th meeting.
And I would agree with you, trustee Crowley. I think, as I looked at the network of the hospitals, it's very robust. All of the hospitals that I look at in Chicago area are in there, like Rush and Northwestern University Chicago and Lurie's. And when you look at the savings that the village would realize from United Healthcare, in addition to the increase from Blue Cross, it's about $135,000. And that's, if you split that, we could split that, and half of that could go into the police pension and half could go in the fire pension, which we know are underfunded. So, in addition to saving the employees money. So I think it's something we really seriously have to consider.
And I think too that it's important that everybody knows why we're doing it. Like I've gotten some feedback from different areas that, people are concerned that it's just, wanting to save a dollar, not caring about insurance or things like that. And that's certainly not my perspective. I think we have to have a balance between what's best for the village and our finances and what, make sure our employees have good health coverage. So we do want the employees to be a part of it, at least I do, and I want to make sure that they have an input as well as looking at it. One thing I do want to point out is I believe the doctors that Trustee Britton sent out, or the networks that Trustee Britton sent out were within 25 miles of the village. So that's not an all-inclusive list with United Healthcare. That's just the providers that are what they're considering locally. So I know there's some people who had concerns about networks outside of that area. I'm sure Treasurer Britton or Horton can answer those questions, so have everyone give them to the department heads, and we can have this conversation.
Can I ask a quick question? Does Horton have a list of our employees' zip codes?
Have a list of our employees, what?
Zip codes?
Yes.
Okay, because if they have our zip codes, they should be able to do a search based on zip code to make sure that coverage for our employees who live further out, like New Lenox, I don't know how far the furthest employee lives.
Well, one of the things that I think makes that difficult is with, parents not living in the same household. Sometimes mom has the child in a different area. So I think if anybody isn't concerned, instead of making them go through that, if the department heads all talk to their employees and make sure they get the feedback and let them know, check it. If you have a question about it, then those individuals can get their questions answered, because I think the majority of people are covered in the area that you provided.
Right, but if that's just within 25 miles, not everybody lives within 25
Right.
miles. That's why I suggested the zip code search.
I put 25 miles, I just said, give me 25 miles, why don't I ask them to come out 50?
It's fine.
And then they would have networks within 50 miles. I would think that would really cover those people.
And not limited to Illinois.
Right, just 50 miles, and someone might be in Indiana.
And a number of the hospitals are in Indiana. I looked, the Franciscan network
Yeah, I
is in
saw
there.
that too.
All right, with a little additional thing, with the feedback that the board has provided to our broker and to Blue Cross Blue Shield, there's a possibility they may come down in price.
Good, excellent. Did you forward in my email? The one
Did I?
The one we talked, the one you were gonna forward to them with the questions I had about the signing up and all that?
Yes, I
Okay.
did that, yes, and there is no, they call it an implementation rebate. There is none because of the second year cap.
That might be something, that we wanna look at as well too.
Well, I think Blue Cross Blue Shield was not anticipating that we would consider United Healthcare, because we haven't the last 2 years. Even though they've offered us savings, it has been small enough that the board didn't want to disrupt what was in place for the employees. But this year, since it's more
Significant.
significant.
So Horton was able to reach out to them.
I'm sorry?
Horton was able to reach out to them.
Importantly,
Okay.
That's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Gillis.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Just to highlight a couple of things on the September Fire Department monthly report, they responded to a total of 233 emergency calls. 84 of those were ambulance calls, 50 ALS, 50 BLS, 49 refusals. During the month, they billed $102,000. Total to date, I believe we have 1,946 calls that they have responded on. Couple of notes on the Historical Society. The TV that was found in the lobby there, that was a TV that was donated by a resident to, the volunteers accepted it. They're going to use that to set up tapes that have been accumulated over the years of residents who have lived in Midlothian for quite a while. And they talk about the village back before it was incorporated, some of the tapes, so it's very interesting. Until we have funds to pay for a TV, they're using that in the meantime. The Historical Society will be open for the open house on October 26th. We have volunteers that will be there from 10 to 1. We will have some of these tapes available. They're very interesting. A couple of things that they are working on. We are still in search of a picture of John Hamilton, who was the first mayor of Midlothian. Over the course of the years, we've been, talking to older people, but if anybody out there does have a family member or a relative who's lived in Midlothian for a long time that may know of a picture that exists, we are looking for that. If you go into the Historical Society, on the wall facing the north part of the building, we have small pictures of the past mayors. We're missing that one. And two mayors that we'd like to get pictures of, one of you, Mayor LaRue, and past Mayor Ryback. So we're going to be working on upgrading those pictures, because over the years, a couple of them have just basically fallen off the wall. So we need to get some different frames for that. And the Historical Society has helped Trustee Ivan with some of the pictures he'd like to post in the lobby for open house. So those will be up by hopefully Friday afternoon.
That's the plan.
And lastly, I just want to wish our Historical Society chairperson, Lori Taylor, get well wishes. She is in the hospital, so hopefully she's recovering, and will be out soon if she isn't out already. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. Trustee Cavney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind everybody that the Fall Fest is this Sunday from noon to 3 o'clock. I want to thank Helen and Kreis for their work at the Rain Garden, for helping me put up various decorations and getting it prepared. We've got plenty of scarecrows out there. I know that the high school is going to be putting up scarecrows. They were either going to do it today or tomorrow, so hopefully we will have a full lawn out there. And I want to also let everybody know that the village received its first Pro Champs check in the amount of $7,500.
Awesome.
And Superintendent Weiner will make sure that that is included as a line item on our building department report going forward every month. I do have a couple questions about a few things. Don, I don't know if you were going to discuss the Public Works RFQ process and how the interviews are going?
Superintendent Sperry, you want to?
The village attorney's
Oh, okay.
Pass it all. Yes,
Okay, that's fine. And a question to Trustee Kreis, do we have a status update on the Keystone parking lot?
There is, Superintendent Sperry, maybe you can address that better about, there was a guy wire discovered on one of the ComEd poles.
Yeah, in the alley, where the exit's gonna be for the lot, towards the alley, towards the east alley.
Yeah?
There's a guy wire in there, that's the big cable that supports the pole, right in the way, so I'm supposed to.
It's in the way of our parking lot?
It's the way of the exit, so, right now they're saying that it's gonna be kinda costly to move that thing, or, I don't even know what they could do with it.
When you say guide wire,
It's called a guy. like
GUI.
a guy wire?
Yeah, it's just a big cable that comes down from a pole, you ever seen that?
Holds the pole.
Yeah,
Supports the
Rob.
pull up.
It's right in the way, so.
Okay, well, this begs a question. Did the engineers or nobody see this when they were designing the parking lot? Did the engineers not come out and do a site inspection when they were gonna design the parking lot? And we're just discovering this now?
I
Okay.
think.
See the blank stare in his face? That-
Yeah, I thought the engineer.
It should have been a rhetorical question, I guess.
So, yeah, this was brought to my attention a month ago, and so I reached out to ComEd, and she's supposed to meet me out there. I talked to her on the phone yesterday, we resolved one other issue with the creek project, and then she said she was gonna get a hold of her engineer, meet me out there and discuss what the options are.
Trustee Kreis, do we have an end date on this where the work has to be done before
No.
the grant expires?
No.
Okay, so do we have, and from what I recall, the grant is like a 45, 55 type of a split, where MWRD is only gonna pay X amount and then the rest is on the village. So I'm assuming the way this works is, we don't price out the whole thing and it's $200,000 and they're gonna give us 45% of that. They're only gonna give us 45% of what the parking lot costs, is that correct?
And the rain garden, right.
And the little rain garden
Right.
piece. So all this other extraneous stuff that is popping up is on the village's dime.
Well, we're gonna try to, I know Superintendent Sperry is working very hard on this. I was just made aware of this about a week and a half ago. So I'm not happy about it either, but we've gotta move forward and try to resolve the issue and get the parking lot in.
Right, but if, at some point, we're gonna have to put pen to paper and see exactly what this is gonna cost the village, and then decide how much the village is willing to pay for 11 parking spaces. And believe me, Karen, green infrastructure is as important to me as it is to you. But at some point, we're talking about 11 parking spaces. It doesn't make sense that we pay an exponentially bigger pot of money for this parking lot than we already have set to pay. I mean, do you have a rough idea what it costs to move a guy line?
We have no
I
idea.
heard the figure $10,000,
Okay.
and I don't know, she's talking about doing some other things, so I don't wanna speak to that because
Okay.
I gotta talk to her.
Okay.
Like I said, this was brought to my attention from the engineer, he reached out to ComEd, and then he came to me. I had no idea.
From our engineer who engineered the parking lot.
Yes.
Do you cede your time?
I got nothing now, I'm just,
Yeah,
Trustee Kilby?
nothing tonight, Mayor.
Trustee Crowley?
I'm going to skip around a little bit if you don't mind, sir. First thing I'd like to talk about is last week trustee Killily had brought up questions about the police department and, about the police department and cell phone violations. So I asked Chief Delaney to get me some information, and from January 1st of this year through last Thursday, I believe, the police department has wrote 620 tickets for cell phone violations, which averages out to more than 2 per day. So I think there's a significant number of tickets being written, so I don't think that's something that's being ignored at all by the village or the police department. Second, I did ask Chief Delaney to also check with the command staff to make sure that no one has ever been reported, no crossing guards have ever been reported being bumped or anything else by cars, and that has not happened either as well. So I'm not sure how that information kind of got translated, but Chief Delaney has assured me that he's talked to all the sergeants to make sure that they do pay extra attention to the 141st Street area. I did talk to him about other alternatives we have, and I don't know if this board would want to entertain it, but if we wanted to ensure that we had police officers on staff at all times to be dedicated to circle around to the different schools and all of the different areas where there's crossing guards, at a minimum, we would need to add 4 new people. So if that's something the board would entertain, I can have Chief Delaney put those numbers together, you let me know.
4 new crossing guards?
No, 4 new police officers.
Oh, police officers.
So, and that would be 2 per shift, because we would need them on day shift, only, so that would be 2 per shift. And that would be enough, we would not still have enough to station people at every crossing area or at every school, but at least there would be 2 people that would be dedicated during school hours to rove the school area. So that would be something that this board would have to make a recommendation on. The next thing on my agenda is I sent everybody on the board and placed it on board docs, the Healy Bender contract for the new police facility. I got a little bit of feedback. Trustee Cavaney had called me and asked me, one portion of the contract asks for the person that would be the contact for providing the architectural designs. She asked if that person could be noted as Superintendent Weinert, and I don't have a problem with that, as long as the attorney's fine with that.
Building superintendent, you could say.
Did I say that wrong?
It would be, that would be it's on page 1 of the contract, under the section where Chief Delaney's name is listed as the point of contact for the project. Then they asked who all the architectural submittals should be sent to.
And it's to be determined.
And it says TBD, but the architectural submittals, I believe, should go to Superintendent Weinert, so he could review them, and so he can have our vendor review them also. Just like, same protocol that happened when Ricky Rockets was built, and same protocol that was followed when the Park District plans were reviewed. So,
I thought we outsourced Ricky Rockets.
pardon me?
Didn't we outsource?
It still
Ricky
has to go
Rockets?
to the superintendent
Yeah.
first.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we did. And we also outsourced the Park District.
Oh, okay.
Trustee Killily had asked me a question. I sent you a message today. I think you got it. Is that sufficient with the bore samplings, for the soil samplings? The information you asked about the budget, did it include the bore stamp? the
Yes,
samplings?
yes, it $19,000.
Yeah. And then I also received an email from trustee Kreis. She had made some excellent suggestions regarding, some other opportunities that we should have had when we are thinking about infrastructure regarding the TIF area. And I think that is definitely something that this board should take into account going forward, because, we have not, doesn't appear that there's been a plan in many years to take care of the buildings that are deteriorating and falling apart. Her suggestion was creating TIF districts and allowing those TIF districts to mature, if I'm saying this correct, trustee
Well,
Price?
we just need one district, as I'm thinking.
And allowing those to mature. Unfortunately, for this project, I don't see that being realistic, because it would be years and years in the making. And our buildings between Public Works and the Police Department have such serious safety concerns that I don't think that's something that we can put off and wait for.
Oh, a TIF can be established relatively, if the board would decide to move forward with the TIF, it can happen. Well, we've got to do the joint review board with the taxing agencies, but it wouldn't take years to get the TIF into place.
But it would take years to establish the money, right?
Well, but then you could, and the attorney can probably answer this more succinctly than I can, but once the TIF is monetized, then you can draw on the TIF for those expenses, which would be land acquisition,
But you're assuming that the police department, the new police facility, public safety facility would be in the TIF district. That's not the case. This
We
is a
don't even
2-year,
know.
this project's been in the works for
We
at
don't
least
even
2
know
years.
we have to wait for the architectural studies to go through to even determine where we're.
With the site,
it's feasible to be. So
I
I
would also
think,
note, trustee, that village buildings would not be eligible for TIF reimbursement, at least the village hall. I don't know if a public works or a police department would be either. They're not TIF eligible.
well,
Really?
I'm all about, regardless, that's really not my concern, no offense, but going forward, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something that we should certainly look at with all of our infrastructure, because it's dated and it's coming time, and we should start thinking about that, to come up with a plan so that we have these ideas, not in place before needed. And those were the only suggestions I had, so.
This is a plan that's been put in place, we've been working on for at least 2 years. It's a sound plan. It's not gonna cost the taxpayers any more money. I don't see any reason why we delay the health and safety of our employees any longer than we have to. So my suggestion is we move forward as we are moving forward. So.
I think the problem I have, Mayor, is that I don't know where 2 buildings are gonna go, and and Public Works has to, is going to be on about the same, is going to be on a similar schedule. I mean, Public Works is deteriorating, and I think the plan is to, if I'm not mistaken, to shore up the wall at this present time, but, you know, I think, the expectation is, I think, to try to find a place for the two places, and I don't know where those are at this point.
Well, isn't that part of?
That's part of the
I read-
process.
I started to read the contract, I didn't get through all 48 pages yet, but that's part of the whole process with Healy Mender.
Site-
Is that
site-
they're gonna go out and they're gonna do,
A site plan.
they're gonna do a site plan evaluation. So we can't keep delaying this, we need to move forward on this for both of the buildings,
Okay.
for Public Works and Police.
Well,
Anything else, Justin?
Police contract, I mean, that's all I had for it, so.
And I am in the process of reviewing it, and if I have any other questions, I'll touch base with Superintendent Leiter and with Karina.
Yes.
Karina is our code enforcement officer who has an architecture degree, so I will be relying heavily on her expertise, and we'll get our comments back to you.
And so
Well,
after my discussion last week, after the discussion here at the board last week, I wanted to bring this forward, and if anybody has any more suggestions, they can certainly email me. Attorney Valdez, did you review it,
The,
the contract?
yes, I did review it, and given that this is what is known in municipal fields as a A1A document, an A1A document, agreement between a municipality and an architect, I'm going to have to do a little bit more investigation into it. My sense is that the village probably, given the amount, the multi-million-dollar nature of both the projects, that it may be worth the investment to get a specialist to review this contract and to negotiate it.
Trustee Kirby?
Can you have that to me this week, please?
Sure.
Because I'd like to put this on the agenda as soon as possible for approval.
My only concern is that we picked the sites, because I think we'll be on a similar schedule. We picked both sites at one time, and that we have enough money for both projects, so.
Well, if you want us to pick both sites at the same time, that means that we really need to get rolling on the Public Works RFQ, so
The
that contract.
Public Works RFQ is done.
Okay.
We are.
So that we
we're-
can get this
we're all-
contract.
We're all done. It's Healy,
This is
well,
a board meeting.
you know, basically, we picked the two people, and the number one is our number one, who should be vetted very soon, and we're ready to go.
And then I think that's excellent, because if it's the same company, then I'm sure we can negotiate, bigger project, better pricing.
That's the plan.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. On to department heads. Chief Hotwire.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to thank everyone who came out to our pancake breakfast and for the support with our annual raffle fundraiser. And secondly, we still have some breast cancer awareness shirts available. The sizes and stuff on our Facebook page. For families interested, call the firehouse and find a way to go on. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Chief Delaney.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'm trying to keep this brief, it's a little complicated. About a year ago, we applied for a grant in cooperation with our police department and Trinity Mental Health Services. After that, it kind of grew a little bit. Taylor's Park jumped on, Taylor's Heights jumped on, Moreland Hills jumped on, as well as Oak Forest. Last week, we were advised that we actually were awarded the grant for reducing recidivism in the CIT crises. So we met last week and we discussed it. The implementation of the grants is about 3 years.
could say too, there was a lot of work that went into this for the department, and a lot of thought and a lot of process, and I think the benefits, at least what it appears are gonna be, are really gonna make a difference for people's lives in this community. So I really wanna thank you for thinking outside the box and joining on this when people really weren't as on board in the law enforcement community, and I think it really, goes to show how much the south suburbs are putting into their community. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Superintendent Weiner?
Nothing at this time.
Superintendent Sperry?
Just a quick update on the Kreis project. They're hoping to open costs are up before Thanksgiving, so in 4 weeks. And we'll be going to Kilbourne and tearing that back up. That's all I have.
Thank you. Engineer Huss, I see you brought a friend tonight. You got the short chair?
Tom's got some stuff going right after I finish up. We are still waiting to hear back regarding the RTA project, so I don't have an update on that. This past Friday, I went and met the foreman that is performing the cleaning and lining. So that is proceeding. Ran into a few issues on St. Louis. We're planning on doing the lining. Thankfully, we sent the video up to the higher ups, so we don't expect any more repair costs, which is a very good thing. This can get pretty pricey pretty quickly. And then this past Monday, 2 days ago, we held the Vernon Heights Stormwater Study Open House, which was the first of 2. We have the following one coming up this Monday for the Little neighborhood. And those are the high points that if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
A couple of things to.
Of course you do.
Okay, so on Monday, we're meeting in Belly Button Hill at 14957 Kilbourne Avenue between 7 and 8. And we really appreciate if people could come out and tell us the flooding woes that they're going through. We had a wonderful meeting last Monday. The host was so gracious, opened their house to us. I want to tell them thank you. I'm not sure what the people's name are, but if you could
Keelan.
express the thank you.
Mark and Sue Keelan.
Then I got some fantastic news. We talked to Don Mentucci from CDBG regarding the CDBG DR grant for Jelly Homes. We're gonna get your agreement next week. I know we heard that before. And every time, every other Tuesday, every other Wednesday, I'm here like, hey, we're gonna, one more week. But, Joe's got the email, and it's like, next week, you're gonna get the agreement. It's coming in the future, it's coming somewhere. But it's good news. That's been a long, hard road, and it's gonna pay off, so we'll see what happens.
Hallelujah.
And then lastly, I gave you a couple of these things, just on water conservation. I mentioned before that I'm on American Water Works Association Community Outreach, and we try to help children and adults understand what water conservation is about. There's a couple of things here. They're really inexpensive, and Joe's always been talking about trying to, at a festival, bring the water wagon out, we've seen pictures of the water wagon shows, and give stuff out, explain to people the importance of public water, sewer, what the public works does. These are the kind of stuff you can have. I talked about it a couple months ago, and I had this on my desk. I thought I'd bring it in and show it to you. There's some more there for any residents who want it. They're more than welcome. It's kind of helpful and easy to do. That's the thing I have.
Do you have a big pile of these that we can have for this weekend, for Saturday and Sunday?
I got that
Okay,
pile
so-
right there, and I pretty
You
much
have a big
exhausted the pile.
Okay.
That's my pile right there. I can give you mine.
Okay.
And thank you for it was a good meeting. I just wanted to mention, as it was starting to wrap up, I went inside to speak to Mr. Keelan's mom, who's living there with him, and she's very aware of what's going on around her. She verified that the construction trucks are not speeding down Kilbourne, which was alleged by someone else. And she just wanted to know what the pink markings on the street, someone surveying Kilbourne.
I saw them too, but I don't know.
I think there's usually our inspectors marking something for removal, because none of the utility companies use that color, spray paint, but.
She doesn't want to hear that.
Being down there.
Okay. She knows all the contractors by name. She brings them food and water. She knows that she tells me that the green marking is for water.
So. That
Orange is gas. It was a very nice, but unfortunately you guys were all gone when I got done talking. So, but nice, very nice meeting. Thank you. Treasurer Britton.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor?
Deputy Clerk Kalaki.
I have nothing.
Attorney Valdez.
Okay, on my agenda is a discussion of the architectural firm for the Public Works building project. I was a member of the evaluation team that reviewed and went through the process for the RFQ. The team completed its responsibilities on time, and I believe on Monday, the rankings and the number one firm was notified, that firm being Healy Bender, with Kluber being the number 2 firm and Farnsworth being the number 3 firm. Pursuant to that, the team evaluated the strengths of all of the firms that made the interview process. They were all outstanding firms. Any one of them could have completed the project competently. Clearly, the difference between the top 2 firms was a mere few points, between 18 points and 15 points in the system that we used. To make a long story short, that was merely, that difference was a couple of members switching from number 1 to number 2, and they would have been the same. So just a couple of flips would have made them equal. Clearly, the advantage was to Healy Bender because they had been selected by the police department, and they were able to make the pitch to the team that their economies of scale would allow them to make savings that the other firms probably would not be able to make. With regard to that, obviously now that they have been selected to do both projects, probably the negotiations, I know Trustee Crowley has a contract, negotiations over that contract should be taken into consideration that they have now been selected to do both projects. The team felt very strongly that not having to go between 2 different architectural firms to evaluate, especially given that we do not have designated sites for either one of the facilities, locations, that having one architectural firm addressing these issues would be a great savings to the village. With that said, given that this is now a very complicated process and a very expensive process with regard to 2 projects at one time, I believe it would behoove the village to have an expert in the field of negotiating these contracts, given that there are law firms that do nothing but negotiate architectural contracts between municipalities and architects, that we look into doing that. The cost, in light of what the savings would be not that great. So the final matter I will say is that during the process, it became very clear that the village is very limited in the locations as to where these facilities can go into. Each firm was very concerned that the public be allowed some input, and that some of these decisions are purely going to be based upon the preference and the desires of the village board and the president, as well as the public, that they can work around the limited sites that we have. Each of them identified the logistical problems for both the public works site and the police department site and this site. So I believe that we have a firm that is very capable, and I believe, given that they have now been designated to do both projects, that we should probably get a substantial savings from what we would pay for architectural services if we separated those 2 activities. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
You'll get us the information by the end of the week, so we can get an idea on pricing?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Under my business, I received the request from Luminaria of Midlothian today for the annual request for the use of the free allotted advertising space in the bus shelters. Also, there will be selling their 2 sale dates are December 14th and 15th, and December 21st and 22nd at St. Christopher's parking lot. And also their largest purchaser of the Luminaria would like to do that again and set them up on the village green. So if no one has any problem with that, I will have Deputy Clerk Kalaki, respond to Mr. Marty Burke from the Luminaria. Excellent, thank you. Trustee Ivan, please remind me to speak to you about the census, since you are the ambassador. And Joyce is here, so I got our monthly letter from Comcast. We are committed to keeping you and our customers informed about changes to Xfinity TV services. Effective December 10th, 2019, 11 channels associated with Stars, Stars Edge, Stars in Black, Stars Comedy, Stars Cinema, Stars Kids and Family, Retroplex, Indieplex, Encore Classic, Encore Suspense, Encore Family, and Encore Espanol, where carried, will be removed from the channel lineup. So very sorry. Sure. Does that affect you at all?
Yeah.
It's terrible. I got the number right here if you want to call.
Okay.
Okay. So Luminaria, open house again, open house this Saturday. Village, Midlothian open house, 10 to 1. Hopefully the weather's nice, but please come out and look at the current status of our village complex. And I know the police department, the fire department, everyone's doing good things. I think, again, Superintendent Weinert's passing out maps of the village or something, or I don't know what he's doing. But he'll be here with a smiling face and talking to people. So looking forward to it. I'll be up in the front office, and please come and see us.
And we will be in here too at 2 different times for self-defense classes.
It's going to be a good time. And then the day after is the Scarecrow Fest. So that is all I have. Clerk Mosco?
I just have one item, and that is a reminder to the board that the September FOIA report has been loaded in board docs. If you have any questions about that, let myself, the deputy, Blackie know. That is all I have.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Kelly, do we still need to?
We can do it tonight or the following meeting, it's up to you.
Whatever.
You're-
We'll do it next week. Well, we're off next week, so. We can do a brief closed session?
Yes.
All right. We will, at this time, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body. Looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, will this be a brief closed session? There will be no further business to come before the board after closed session.
Stop right there. There's more to see.